This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
Hey, welcome to the Best of World Awakenings podcast with me, Carl Gruber, the host and creator of this show. Since 2018, I have had the honor of bringing you some of the world's finest teachers, thought leaders, and practitioners of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening. Now, with this in mind, I thought it would be fun to give you the best of, featuring some of my most amazing guests. Now, this is part one of the Best of World Awakening, so let's start it off with one of my favorite people in the world, my mentor, Christy Whitman.
My first guest is an amazing lady, Christy Whitman. Christy is the founder and owner of the Quantum Success Coaching Academy, which has certified thousands of people around the world as Law of Attraction life coaches. She is also a New York Times best-selling author and is a true master teacher of the Law of Attraction. Hey, welcome, Christy.
I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much, Carl.
So our topic here is the Law of Attraction and universal laws. Can you explain this to us, Christy, and how can we successfully use it in our life?
Well, for me to even create the Coaching Academy, that's like an amazing story in and of itself. But for me, I think of quantum, when you think of quantum physics, and I think of my branding for not only the Quantum Success Coaching Academy, but if you go to ChristyWhitman.com, you'll see it says right on there, Quantum Success. And for me, that's really what it's about. For me, and the way I understand it, is that everything is energy, and that all energy carries a vibration, and that vibration that goes out into the universe contains information or communication. And so that is really the study of, it's a very small percentage and short, short little note view, if you will, a Cliff Note version of what quantum physics is, but it's that everything really is energy, and there are universal principles that make our world work, including the universal laws. So that's why, for me, I talk about quantum success and then also talk about the universal laws.
Now, also for my very first show ever is author and metaphysical teacher James Goy Jr.
Our next guest here on World Awakenings is James Goy Jr. Based out of San Diego, California, James is author of the book How to Attract Money Using Mind Power. His book is now widely available throughout the world and published in multiple languages. James avidly spreads the teachings of using your mind power to attract money by constantly doing interviews like this. Hey, welcome, James. How are you?
Hello, Carl. I'm prosperous. How's that sound?
Okay, James, so I've read your short 101-page book, and it's pretty amazing to think that you can use mind power to bring money into your life. Can you please explain more about your book, How to Attract Money Using Mind Power?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this book teaches people to do what I always wished I could do and always strived to learn to do and practiced doing for years. And if I would have had a book like this, it's almost a cliche to say something like this, but if I would have had a book like this particular book, way back when, and would have sat down and got serious with it, I would have been decades ahead of the game.
Well, from my experience, seemingly there's a lack mentality that permeates the world's population. How can people who read your book overcome their deep beliefs of financial lack?
Certainly. It's not going to be easy for them because these paradigms, these world views, these ways of looking at things, these beliefs, they're deeply embedded, not only in the conscious mind, but in the subconscious mind. And the thing is that they can be overcome, and it's not really as hard as some people might, think it is or make it out to be. And, when there's two different ways to approach it, or two main themes. One is to try to dig out and discover all of these reasons and memories and where did I get this belief and why. That's one approach. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's an approach. It's not my way. Now, if you think about it, people, are on the quote-unquote couch, right, in psychiatry and psychology for years on end, digging stuff out and getting to the root of stuff. Well, here's the fact, folks. You can lay on the couch for 5 years, or, but the thing is, you still have to pay your rent this month. You still have to eat tonight. I mean, people literally, especially today, are living. I mean, they're one paycheck away from getting a notice to move, and they're 30 days from being on the street. A lot of people, and you don't have the money, first of all, to try to dig up all your childhood, programmings and this and that. And guess what? It's not even necessary. So I teach people. Here's just a short answer, and we can get into more if we want, but to not dwell on where the beliefs came from. You can know what they are just from your own behavior and basic thoughts. And then what we really need to know is what beliefs and expectancies and attitudes are going to support me in attracting money using my inherent mind power, and then to do that. Because when you're doing that, you're not doing the other. If you're thinking positively, you're not thinking negatively, and the two don't happen at the same time. So the negative way of looking at things and of thinking, and habitual ways of thinking negatively and being pessimistic about finances and other things, will eventually die of its own dead weight. It will fall away the more we are focusing in another direction.
Well, James, could you please explain further what mind power is and how the emotions play a part of it?
Certainly. Basically we're dealing with three, loosely defined areas here when we're talking about the attractive power of the mind. And one is the thoughts themselves, the other is the emotion, and the other is the images. And you can see they're all interrelated. There's no clear lines between them. It's hard to have a thought without having an emotion. And if you have emotion, let's say all of a sudden you get some kind of instinctive fear. You know how all of a sudden you go somewhere and some kind of a feeling comes over you. And so in this case, the feeling comes first, and then you have thoughts about it. Thoughts and feelings give rise to images. Images give rise to thoughts and feelings. So they're all very intricately tied together. And the thing is, I tell people, look at it like this. Look at your computer screen. Like right now I'm sitting in front of my computer. And think of thoughts as the frame and the picture that's there. So the thought gives structure. It's the what. The emotion is what feeds the power into it, because the universe and our subconscious minds and just human behavior in general and universal behavior, which is very important, is moved by emotion. So that's what we're getting at here. The emotion is the power. It's the force. It's the what makes it happen. Anyone can have a vague thought of I won the lottery. But and then forget it and go on and start saying, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent again, and life is unfair, and the economy is terrible. But to really hold an emotion like that, or to see yourself with a certain amount of money, or living a certain lifestyle, and to become passionate about it, that's going to not only start the universe at work, bringing those circumstances around, but it's also going to motivate the individual and move them so that they'll do their part. Because, people think they have to do everything. They don't. And I can tell you from experience, our part is less than half. The universe does most of the work, but there are things we have to do. But emotion's behind all of it, our actions and the actions of the universe. It's the moving force.
Now, in episode number 2 of World Awakenings, I interviewed Law of Attraction life coach and master yoga teacher Isabel Stal of Oslo, Norway. Isabel is a true example of awakening to her full potential as a light worker, and in doing so, spreads the enlightenment to all who come in contact with her.
Well, I think I was very open to spirituality from a very young age, really. like I really started like to question things very early, like, oh, what's the meaning and why am I here? What am I gonna do with my life? Like from I was like 12, 13 years old, really. And I think that I didn't know, like, I'm just starting from the beginning now, seriously, but I didn't really know the question, like, I didn't know the answer to these questions, right? I didn't know what was the meaning, why am I here, like, what's the whole point? And I felt that made me actually really depressed, that I didn't have these sort of answers. And because I was willing to kind of go through that, what do you say, the dark night of the soul, or whatever they call it. Mm-hmm. I mean, go through that period where I didn't feel I had an answer to this question, that really opened me up to spirituality, and I had some sort of spiritual awakening, really, which is like today I still don't really know what happened that day, but it was almost like, it felt like I've been so deep down in feeling this kind of pain and not knowing the meaning, that I didn't know, like I didn't want to live, seriously. So
I
was
still when you were a teenager?
Yeah, that was my teenage years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I went like through a period where I was just taking a lot of drugs and doing a lot of things to kind of numb myself, because I didn't know what to do with myself. And one night something just happened that it felt like I couldn't go any deeper down into my pain. And all of a sudden my heart and my, like, everything just opened up from nowhere. I don't know really what happened. And this stream, like this overload of love, of energy, of answers, really, it felt like I just, like, things clicked into place all of a sudden. And I realized how I felt like my own strength that I've never felt before, or the strength from my heart, and this realization that, wow, we're, as human beings, this potential that we all have, this amazing strength and love, and, you know, there's so much within us if we dare to look in.
In episode number 3, I chatted with Australia's Brendan D. Murphy, author of a truly monumental book, The Grand Illusion, a synthesis of science and spirituality. Brendan and his work are absolutely mind-blowing and a mind-expanding treatise on all things metaphysical and spiritual, and show that science is now proving that which the spiritual icons and metaphysicians have been saying throughout all of history. What I love about your book is, again, going back to the title, Science and Spirituality, you show that what the spiritual leaders have been saying for millennia now is the same thing that scientists are saying. Even though they may have different lingo, they're saying the same thing, and it's a real validation. Your whole book is a validation that science and spirituality really have come together.
Yeah, that was really the point in a lot of ways, because again, it's these discussions, especially in the mainstream, they frame them in a way that science is in competition with spirituality, and never the twain shall meet. And you can't, one thing doesn't have anything to do with the other. Like, spirituality is by definition anti-scientific, unscientific to most people. And even, unfortunately, a lot of scientists who are card-carrying members of the cult of scientism, they take that attitude. Mm-hmm. So what I tried to do was show, well, look, if we just get our egos out of the equation and look at the facts and what the research actually states, you'll find that there's basically, as you're saying, those two spheres dovetail, the findings of both spheres dovetail, and they're not in competition at all. I mean, when you get down to it, like you said, they're saying the same thing. They've reached the same position, basically, through very different avenues. I mean, the mystics and the occultists have done it through an internal, introspective kind of approach. They have an experiential basis for it. So, they have unitive experiences, altered states of consciousness that tell them, this is the nature of reality, like everything's interconnected, sort of thing. And the scientists and the physicists have sort of, I think, to me, the physicists have led the way in the charge of science in that direction. They've led the charge to that same point where they're going, well, look, it seems like, based on what we know, it seems like everything's interconnected. It seems like there are no isolated systems. We've got this same basic, like the essence of the teachings from the scientists who are making the connections and connecting the dots. It's the same sort of thing, basically.
In episode number 5 of World Awakenings, we featured Nori Love, a gifted metaphysical intuitive who is a healer, a life coach, a certified hypnotherapist, and a Reiki master. Nori Love is proof positive that the world is not only awakening to, but openly accepting and receiving the reality and truth of the joy, goodness, and love that is available to each of us in the metaphysical realm and right here on good old Earth.
Thank you, Nori. Now, let me get this straight, too. I know you're a lady of many hats. First of all, you're appropriately named Love, because you really are the personification of love in so many ways, shapes, and forms. Besides being a law of attraction life coach, you're also a certified hypnotherapist, and you're also a Reiki practitioner?
I am a Reiki master.
First of all, let's go back to what attracted you to the law of attraction, becoming a life coach in the first place.
So I think this new level of understanding just kind of came to me the other day, because I came to the planet with the fabric of who I am. I realized that there was something about me that helped little creatures become well, and then I realized it transferred to humans as well, and I shaped this physical world around who I came to be. So back before I even knew law of attraction existed, I was obese in my bedroom, maybe 16 years old, and looking at myself in the mirror, and I just knew that if I could get a vision of the way that I wanted to be, that I could make it happen if I could focus on it every day. So this was a million years ago, right? I mean, law of attraction wasn't even a thing then. So naturally, I fell into the arms of Abraham back in the 80s and fell in love with law of attraction, or, it was just so... it's just so synchronistic for me. It just made sense. Mm-hmm. So going on to become a coach just seemed like the next thing to do. Part of I consider myself a healing artist, and that's one of my tools, in my little healing artist bag.
Very neat. Well, you're not obese and you're not 16 years old anymore.
Oh.
Well, let me just say, so evidently you intuitively knew that you had this gift of offering a lot to the world, and you're already evidently connected in some way psychically to your gifts.
Yes, I was, and interestingly, and really out of character, when I was about 10 years old, my father, who was, a blue-collar worker in Manhattan, gave me a book on how to know or how to develop your psychic powers. Very, very out of character.
Wow.
Yes. So little things like that, continued to happen over time. As I got older and, went into nursing, I was more of a reluctant healer, because it wasn't as accepted the way that it is now. So I was like an in-the-closet healer, and I would close the door to the ICU and, do what I did with patients. But I didn't tell my coworkers I was doing things like that.
Oh, that's right. By the way, Nori is a registered nurse on top of everything else.
Yeah, that was my proving ground, because I was reluctant to come out of the closet, and I decided that if I could go and work in the burn and the trauma ICU, amid all of the chaos and the electrical interference and, being around people who were not believers, and if the universe showed me that I was healer there, then I would believe it. And, I had undeniable experiences. So, it was then that things just started showing up on my path. I studied Reiki way back in the day, but of course I wanted to retake it with Evelyn from Quantum Edge Healing Institute. So I did recently do that, but it led me to life coaching, and life coaching led me to hypnotherapy, and hypnotherapy led me back to Reiki, and here I am.
From the 6th show, we met Carolyn Rim, who is known as a confidence coach and is one of America's top inspirational motivators and holds transformational workshops and events that have helped thousands to release their inner rock star.
Carolyn, as well known as you are now, one thing I'd like to do, I'm sure there are plenty of listeners out there that really don't know anything about you. And your story is so amazing, and I'm sure people are asking you to tell it all the time. Would you be able to give us a little idea, the metamorphosis you've undergone in order to become her term is rock star, and I love it, you've become a rock star. What is your story?
Yeah, sure. So first, just to share what a rock star means. A rock star means to me anybody who has a dream and decides to make that dream a reality no matter what. That is the definition of a rock star to me, because we all have dreams inside of us, and so many of us, we don't live them because of the culture that we grew up in, because of all the people that tell us we have to live life a certain way, because it's too scary, because of all the failure. And I'm not sure where your listeners are in your life. I know some of you are probably doing really well in one area, maybe not so well in another area. Maybe in all areas you're excelling, but you just want to go to that next level. So my intention for this podcast is to help you to take action in your own life and to really clean up your own vibration so you can start to create that magic and the miracles and the manifestations that can come when you become conscious to that which you are, which is a vibrational being that is a loudspeaker. You are constantly broadcasting a vibration into the universe, and it is constantly coming back to you. And it was 4 years ago, I sat in a cube, a little desk, and I was just so depressed. I wanted to kill myself. I was just on the verge of suicide. It was that bad. And I could not figure out what I was doing wrong. I was in a dead-end job. I had $36 in my bank. A toxic relationship. I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. And everything just seemed to come to a head that day. I just could not take it anymore. I didn't want to live one more minute on this planet. And I'm sure all of us, whether it was conscious or unconscious, can relate to not wanting to be here sometimes, to feeling that unworthiness sometimes, because those are actually the two biggest fears on the planet. These are universal fears that everyone has, that we're not enough and that we won't be loved. And so that day I wasn't feeling like enough. I was enough. I wasn't feeling worthy, and I let that take hold of me. So what ended up happening is just this moment of grace came over me, and I remember I was looking bridges to jump off of. Wow. I remember, it was that bad. I was like getting ready to buy the ticket to go out there and do it. And just something came over me. It was like this feeling of grace. Like I just felt like something was hugging me in that moment, letting me know that everything was going to be okay, that I could do this. And then for some reason, I remember I typed in a name, and it was a motivational speaker, and I ended up going to one of his events. And after that, I remember that week, like after that experience, that moment of grace, because it was like, everyone in this world can have awareness, but it's when you take that action on that awareness. You only have 5 seconds to take that action before your ego and your brain takes over. Like it will take over and stop you physically, emotionally, spiritually. So that's why it's so important to act when your soul, when your intuition is telling you to do something. And within a week of this moment of grace happening, I quit my job. My husband had left me at the time. I quit smoking, and I literally burned all the bridges in my life. I said, I am not willing to take one more moment, one more day, living a life that doesn't make me feel alive, make me feel inspired, make me feel like I am just taking leaps into the unknown. And uncertainty and unknown is really scary for everyone. We all need a little uncertainty.
So what you're saying is you just finally got to a place so dark that you said, I can't take it anymore. I just can't, and just went from there and had this graceful moment, huh?
Yeah, and I'm going to share what happened, actually, because it wasn't until actually when I was writing my book, I figured out what happened in that moment. And here I thought it was grace, I thought it was God, I thought it was all this crazy stuff. And I went into my meditation while I was writing my book, which is called Awakening the Heart, and it's all about how to really create that magic, get out of your, whatever job you're in. Because there's so many people that are in jobs that they don't like, and they're not living their dreams. They're not going for it. They're not willing to take that risk. And so that's what Awakening the Heart's all about. Finding the juicy, delicious relationship that is out there just waiting for you to take it. To stop settling for less, because you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting the other person too when you do that. So, and I've done that. We all have done that. So what ended up happening is I was writing my book, and I went into a meditation at one point, and in this visualization, I actually went into that moment. And I was actually the one hugging me from behind. Mm-hmm. Like I went into, because here's the thing, time is just an illusion. We can time travel. This is like scientifically proven that we can travel through time. Time is not just linear. It's all jumbled up, and you can go to the past, you can go to the present, you can go to the future. And so I went to that moment, and I saw myself hugging me, and I just had tears streaming down my face because I became my own hero for the first time in my life. And a lot of people can relate to this, because what we do is we put all these people on pedestals, and we think, oh, well, I'll never be like them, or I could never do that. And then we forget to become our own heroes. We make all these other people in our lives heroes except for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing that I could tell your listeners out there is to start making you the hero of your story. At any given moment, at any given time, you can make this moment right now a moment where you're like, you know what, I'm deciding that I'm going to be successful, that I'm going to make my dreams come true. Because the moment success actually happens isn't that moment when you get the money, when you get the relationship, when you get the goal that you were achieving. It's when you decided. That's when the success actually happens, when you make that commitment. So that's huge. If you guys can just get that one point alone, your life will drastically and radically shift.
Law of Attraction life coach Rita Hurry was my guest on episode number 8. Based in London, Rita was awarded the Law of Attraction Life Coach of the Year award in 2015 and personifies what a true mind, body, and spirit life coach is. If your heart and mind were not receptive to the truths of metaphysical and spiritual teachings, they will be after listening to what Rita Hurry has to say. As we head across the sea from the U.S. over to the United Kingdom, and we talk to a lady from London, and of course that is Rita Hurry. Rita is a certified Law of Attraction life coach, and well, she's actually certified in a lot of things. Very, very well-rounded coach. And Rita, I'm so glad to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on the show with me today.
It's great to be here, Carl, and thank you so much for inviting me.
I noticed that you mentioned that you had tried different religions. One thing that I have found a confusion with is people who first come to Law of Attraction, but just not that thing's metaphysical and spiritual in nature, I think they get it confused with religion, and you have to understand it's got nothing to do with religion. You know, this is true spirituality and universal energy. Do you ever run into that problem?
Yeah, and, I have had clients who are religious and who believe in the law of attraction and who like to follow it. And at first it did surprise me, because law of attraction, the way you live, it's about spiritual energy, and it's having that freedom within it, which I love, and which is really who I am at the core of which is what attracted me to it. But and at first I would sort of like inquire a lot, sort of obviously coming from very structured, rules and things that you have to follow, to then going into that free flowing spirituality. I think what there is fundamentally is sometimes people feel that they're losing their spirituality and they need to recapture it. Therefore, law of attraction is a way of recapturing that in their religion, so that they can get that sense of, okay, we say universe and someone might say God, or, whatever they associate to the higher power. But it is still a higher power. It's still being a part of that spiritual essence. And I think it's just that seeking of spiritual energy that some people who are still religious who come to law of attraction are looking for that sort of getting that balance right.
I think for me the biggest separation between, quote, religion and spirituality is religion to me is of man. Over the millennia, it's been guided and changed by men in power in order to control the masses, using it with a threat that, if you don't follow these rules, you're going to go to hell, that type of thing. And I think that's why you're seeing a bigger and bigger trend in the world to pure spirituality. I think there's a segment called Spiritual But Not Religious. It's called, SNR, a group of people. And that segment of, I've seen research on this is growing larger and larger. So I find that really interesting, this blossoming. And as a matter of fact, I mentioned I would love to talk about this core. This is the core of this podcast, the population of the world awakening to all things metaphysical and spiritual. Do you have thoughts on that and why this is happening and why now?
I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that people are searching for something, and like we've mentioned, we thought, they thought that maybe religion would be the answer. They thought that maybe following other people would be the answer. I mean, you've got this huge trend now of people following reality stars, and even some reality stars are being open that they're struggling and therefore having to go within to find that answer. And I think a lot of people are just constantly searching and battling, and they just need something that isn't physically there. And the only way to find that is through going within. And therefore, things like, say, for example, yoga. Yoga is something that's it's like everyone's doing yoga now. Everyone's discovering yoga. Everyone's discovering meditation, because it's all about going in now. People are not gaining peace from the usual outlets that they used to before. It's just pushing them away from who they are. And I just feel that it's almost that the universe is saying it's time to come back to you. It's time to take your power back. And I think people are hearing that now. And the more people that are hearing that, the more the energy is spreading. Because remember, like attracts like. So as one energy is doing that, another energy is doing that. And if we continue to come together and spread that message that the answer's within, more and more people are joining in. And I think that's where it is. As you said, the secrets come out.
In episode number 14, we spoke with Terry Wilson, who is known by much of the public as a radio personality, and in recent years as an accomplished photographer and videographer. This interview with Terry reveals a side of him not many know about, his deep understanding and wisdom of all things metaphysical and spiritual via his practice as a Reiki master and as an empath. As a matter of fact, that is Terry's voice you hear speaking for this show's intro. I am so honored and excited to have a longtime friend and hero of mine, Terry Wilson, with us right here today on World Awakenings as our feature interview. And Terry, welcome aboard. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on to World Awakenings.
Well, I'm honored to be a guest and, understanding what your purpose of this program is. Anything having to do with moving folks forward, hopefully toward enlightenment. I mean, that's obviously a subject unto itself. But I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, and, with that in mind, I'd like to say to the folks, Terry, I mentioned this earlier in the intro, but Terry and I have both been broadcasters in radio for a long, long time. We've known each other, and Terry was actually one of my microphone idols for a long time. But
Terry's talent goes far and away in many different ways. He's an amazing photographer and videographer, a producer, a writer, but what we've come here to talk to on a show that is all about why now more than ever is the world awakening to all things metaphysical and spiritual. On top of all of Terry's talents, Terry is actually a Reiki master. And before I get you talking about that, I have a little explanation about Reiki that I found from one of my previous interviewees, Nori Love, who is also a Reiki master. And it says Reiki is a spiritual healing art with its roots in Japanese origin. The word Reiki comes from the Japanese word rei, R-E-I, which means universal life, and ki, K-I, which means energy. Reiki is not affiliated with any particular religion or religious practice. It is not massage, nor is it based on belief or suggestion. It is a subtle and effective form of energy work used spiritually guided life force energy. I think that is a very, very cool, beautiful explanation. And Terry, before we even talk more about Reiki itself, tell me how did you get into it? What led you to Reiki?
It basically has to do with a belief that I've had since being a child, that we're not what we appear to be. That the blueprint for human beings is something that is clouded by a fascination and possibly even an addiction to material and appearances. And when that happens, you end up with confusion based on duality. As a child, I noticed that there were certain rules in the universe, and obviously the ones that had to do with physics were the ones that caught my eye first. And coming up and thinking in terms of being a scientist and wanting to test everything, take things apart, is the way that I approached essentially the rest of my learning time, including my association with the Methodist Church, which I had association in my little hometown of both the Lutheran and the Methodist Church. So I come out of an Appalachian Protestant middle class background, and there were some magical aspects to my childhood that I've just started realizing more today, now that I have some time to think about it, than I have through my entire life. But two words that you said just a moment ago are the keys to what we're talking about here. Subtle and energy. This is, I believe, where the science of the 21st century is going to lead us. And once again, this is something that is based upon the fact that we are not what we appear to be. We are so much more. Now, once you accept that and you kind of allow your mind to wrap around that and to sort of feel into, if you know what I mean by feeling into, because there's certain things that people consider to be phenomenal that are just aspects of physics that we experience on a gross level, also on a subtle level. And if you tune yourself into a subtle level, it's like having an AM and an FM radio. You're not going to get the same programs on both radios. They're going to isolate and separate programs that fit on each of the bandwidths.
On episode number 15, we meet one of my favorite people and colleagues, Renee Marcou, a life coach, a professional singer, Reiki, yoga master, and self-proclaimed CEO goddess. We have a wonderful chat about and delve deeply into the law of attraction, life coaching, and much more. This chat with Renee Marcou was my very first video version of World Awakenings.
And I can verify that this young lady is the real deal. She walks the talk that she talks and was a big help to me. But we're here to find out more about you, Renee Marcou. Tell us exactly what attracted you to the law of attraction and also to become a law of attraction life coach.
So, what attracted me to the law of attraction originally, basically, I say that opened that whole door for me, was when I realized that I actually had the power within me to create my ideal life. And I was very, very clear on what I wanted in life. I knew I was going to grow up and be a singer ever since I was a child. I knew that I was going to be using my voice in this world to spread joy and love. I just had this knowingness ever since I was young. And as I started pursuing a music career in my mid-teen years, I was thinking, oh, if I'm lucky, someone will discover me, or, oh, if I'm lucky, I'll have a chance to be on stage. I really had no idea that I was in control of my luck, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so my auntie took me out for a lunch because I was moving out to LA after I had just graduated high school. So I just turned 18. And she took me out and she said, there's something I want to share with you. It's about like being able to tap into your true potential and your greatness and how to attract the things in your life that you want. And then it ended up being the book, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. Mm-hmm. And so I'm reading this book. I started reading it on my flight out to LA weeks later. And she also gave me this bracelet with the book too, that I still have to this day. It's such like a talisman for me that anytime I look at it or feel the vibration around it, I'm like, yes, it just like lights my eyes up. And so when I was flying out there, I started reading through these pages and I was like, whoa, like I have control over this. I was like, because here I was like growing up just thinking that like things kind of fall out of the sky, or like that if I'm lucky and I run into the right person, I had no idea that I had control other than, I mean, I grew up praying, but.
Wait, they don't fall out of the sky now?
No, they do. No. Sometimes they do.
They fall out of the vortex.
Exactly. That's right.
And what's your definition, the basic definition of the law of attraction?
The most basic way to put it, and this is how I started out in the groups that I teach and coach, is the most basic way, like attracts like. So whatever you're thinking, pondering, whatever you're feeling, what's in your mind at that moment is what you are becoming a magnet to in your outer reality. So, you know, we have 60,000 plus thoughts a day, right?
Wow.
So how to measure like how, like where you're actually feeling, oh gosh, am I in a good vibration to attract what I really do want in life, is to measure if you're feeling good or if you're feeling bad. And those are like the most basic ways to put it. We can go into depth so much more and actually look at the scale of emotions and say, okay, I'm feeling joyful in this moment, you know, and get like a little bit more clarity, of course, but just like for a very basic way, like where am I feeling? Am I feeling in a good space and focusing on the things in my life that I want and that I intend on bringing into me, so therefore feeling good about it? Or am I, you know, on that other spectrum, law of polarity, right? We have the good and the bad. Am I vibrating in that bad and trying to like force things to happen, or like force myself to do things that I think I'm supposed to do?
In episode number 18, we meet with Poul Larsen from Oslo, Norway. Poul is a life coach and spiritual teacher and discusses his series of 3 books about shamanism, and also teaches us about the 7 elements of personal transformation.
You and I have had previous conversations, and I'd like to let our audience know, I mean, you've had a pretty interesting life, though. I mean, you've done some things, and how did that lead you to becoming a life coach, a law of attraction life coach on top of that?
I think the first time I have to say is that I was always different than other kids. You know, I'm the weird one, the one from the class that you're pointing fingers at. And I think at many times when we are gathered with light workers or people who are interested in spiritual and things when it comes to personal development, they have often found themselves in a situation when they were younger that he was the weird kid. Mm-hmm. So I experienced that too, and that got me very curious. Why am I not having the same experience as others? And everything cracked down when I was in my late 30s. I found out that I didn't like myself, or I did the basics of me, but I didn't like my life, and I had to make a halt in my life and stop up. And I stopped working for 2 years, and I went to. I was lucky or a hard-working man, so I had money, so I could take off a year or two, and that's where basically, because I had a halt in my life also, and some insights when I was in my early 30s, and when I was in my early 40s. I found out that I can't do this, and I need to find out who I am, why I am here, and what is it on the spiritual side that I haven't looked at. And that took me on a path to meet Native Americans, and it took me to all kind of spiritual gatherings with spiritual people around the world. So I've been introduced to medicine like the iboga and the ayahuasca and the peyote and kambo, and checked out everything. And I visited also, I think I didn't share with you, but I visited almost 7 or 8 different tribes or reservations in the US. So I've been together with Havasupai and Lakota and Apache and Hopi. And I've been even been sun dancing together with the Lakota people.
Wow!
Which is a ceremony where you dance for 4 days, almost without eating and drinking. So we only have a little horseman tea, and that kind of led me to understand that it is not about me. It is about how I can serve and make a difference. And it humbled me to have all those challenges in life. So I'm kind of being humbled by a life that has been very hard on me. And I can see how that has, in an insanely beautiful way, gifted me, because I now see at what I can do for other people instead of what they can do for me. And that is kind of one of my biggest insights, to be honest and to be humble, and to still not to be afraid of being powerful and being a warrior, which is like the masculine role today. It's almost, you have to embarrass if you are a strong masculine man. That is like weird for me, and I hear what's going on in the US. So I would say it's being willing to be the butterfly, and it's a part of my book, because the book you're talking about is called The Warrior and the Butterfly, and that's a powerful, very strong young man who's finally finds himself at the end, that he's willing to change and transform.
Episode number 19 of World Awakenings was with wellness coach and author Jamie Lerner, who helped us to understand how to incorporate the law of attraction to create the life you desire and tap into your inherent, very real power to be a co-creator with the universe.
Thing I wanted to read here for you, and it's about when we grow up as kids, and this is from an article I wrote, but this is a quote from the book Spontaneous Evolution by Bruce Lipton, and They refer to brainwave studies done on children using an EEG, an electroencephalogram. And this is a quote: "The predominant delta and theta brainwaves activity expressed by children younger than 6 signifies that their brains are operating at levels below consciousness. Delta and theta brain frequencies define a brain state known as a hypnagogic trance, the same neural state that hypnotherapists use to download new behaviors into the subconscious minds of their clients. In other words, the first 6 years of a child's life are spent in a hypnotic trance. A child's perceptions of the world are directly downloaded to the subconscious during this time without discrimination and without filters of the analytical self-conscious mind, which doesn't fully exist. Consequently, our fundamental perceptions about life and our role in it are learned without our having the capacity to choose or reject those beliefs. We are simply programmed." Any comments? And I think that's an amazing statement.
I think that's a really interesting perspective, and clearly it's based in science. And I have such a high regard for Bruce Lipton and all of his work. However, I don't know, that doesn't resonate with me. Mm-hmm. And I also have 4 grandchildren who I assisted in all of their births. So I was able to really be there through the birth, and pretty much I'm with them, a few times a week. So I think that children especially have their own minds, and I think that they are observing, but they are also much freer to exercise free choice the younger they are, the less influenced they are by everyday society. So I think it's a wonderful conversation, and I think it's great because it lets everyone off the hook. It really does. So really what it's saying is, you're not responsible for all the things that, you have been influenced by. And now we can change that genetic expression, because that's really what Bruce Lipton talks about. And I think that's a great place to start with people. But what I also find interesting is that when we are reminded of who we are and what we know, and we reconnect with ourselves, our inner being, our inner knowing, all of that, it becomes very familiar to us. So, and it feels like we've come home to ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I think that there are many ways to talk about all of this, and it doesn't really matter how you get to the point of reconnecting with yourself. It's just wonderful if you do.
Episode number 20 featured from Costa Rica, David Vletas, author of the book Jumping Off the Edge Responsibly. David is also a surfer, life coach, and director of the Costa Rica Wellness Institute. He goes a long way in showing you just how one man can care so much about helping you and the entire world to find enlightenment and purpose, while also teaching yourself how to live a life of purpose to its fullest.
David, let's find out, how did the Costa Rica Wellness Institute come together?
I have always loved surfing. And I was down here about 18 years ago on vacation, and I just fell in love with the country and the people. And I knew I was going to live here that first day I was here in the country. And so I traveled back 5 trips in 18 months.
Wow.
All over the country, looking for, where did I want to jump off? Where was I going to live? And so I picked this little town called Nosara. And it's in the northwest part in the Guanacaste province on the Pacific Ocean. And it's the jungle and the mountains come right to the ocean, and little dirt roads. And it's growing pretty fast now. It's changing a lot, but it's still undeveloped by any kind of a North American standard. And but I'm a surfer. I'm 59 years old. I've been surfing since I was 8. So I've been doing this relationship thing with the ocean for 51 years plus. And it's absolutely my favorite thing to do. And so I make it really a priority in my life. And so that was really one of the reasons I ended up down there, because I was kind of redesigning my life. I'm a scientist for 36 years. a geologist and a minor in petroleum engineering. I went to Colorado School of Mines in Golden, and I finished up down at the University of Texas in Austin. So I've always loved being, in exploration and working on multidisciplinary teams and finding oil and gas. And but somewhere about 7 or 8 years ago, I got this bad taste in my mouth regarding all of that. And the unsustainability of it all, and the plastics and the products, and and I had to let myself out, and so I began designing myself out of that. I'm almost completely out, working on my last project, and but anyway, to answer the question about how did the Costa Rica Wellness Institute come, I became a coach over 26 years ago.
A life coach?
Yeah, well, more of a business consulting coach, but it was working in multidisciplinary teams. So there would be an attorney and an accountant and a geologist and a geophysicist and an engineer and some support staff. And so I was really good at putting together processes that had things be expedited and come, these projects, there were lots of fine points that had to be in the right sequence, and the timing had to be correct, or it was super expensive and you ended up waiting and things didn't go well, and then you had other problems. But I was really good at finding a way, because of communication and in relationships and lining it all out, to make things happen quickly and on time and on budget, like that. So I got a relationship with people and myself mostly, and I became a coach. So at that time, I had some synchronicities, and a friend of mine, she introduced me to some great work, and I started taking these courses. And I've never stopped training and developing myself. Like you were saying earlier, there are just so many great teachers out there. Yes. I love to read, and I love going online. Basically, we can Google anything we want. And so the Costa Rica Wellness Institute came to my mind about 3 or 4 years ago. And so the vision was born, but actually I started it about 2.5 years ago, when I was writing my first book, Jumping Off the Edge Responsibly. I had this whole story about, wow, I'm not really a writer. I'm more of a technical writer, kind of a science nerd. I'm never going to really write a book. I didn't see that for myself, but I had people telling me, David, you should write this book. And they were saying this for years. This would help a lot of people. And finally, something clicked. And I just had an opening that, I was going to write this book. And so this writing coach shows up. And the rest is history. We clicked, and I began writing with her and working with her. Dr. Angela Loria, she's super great, super successful woman, one of the best writing coaches I can ever imagine anyone having. If you want to write a book, go look her up. Okay. She will happen with you. So that was kind of concurrent with the Costa Rica Wellness Institute starting. I got the website up, and I started doing these immersion week retreats, which really
was very interesting. Very interesting.
This is my background up to that point. So I think that kind of answers your question. That's how it was all born. But it was a process. It was a natural progression and evolution of my life journey. And then I made this process up called the Ready To process as a result of my having moved down here over 16 years ago, because I was in that transition and redesigning my life in a super specific way. I had noticed, because of all the studies I had been doing, there's great teachers and great work out there, but I noticed that no one had anything that was fully integrated, which I thought was very interesting. And I saw it as a niche to fill. So that's why I developed this work, mainly for myself and a lifestyle choice and a way of living optimally, and me having life instead of it having me.
In episode number 22, we visited Berlin, Germany to speak with a young woman who simply goes by the name B. She is a law of attraction life coach who has created what she calls the Manifesting Squad that specifically helps and empowers women to manifest more money and abundance in their lives.
And your story about how you came to the law of attraction is really interesting. Can you tell the audience your own personal story of coming to the law of attraction?
Oh, yeah. So I took a couple of routes, probably. It all started when I first came across The Secret, as so many people did, probably, watching the movie or reading the book. And I was like, wow, this is really amazing. You just need to visualize what you want. You need to express gratitude, and everything will fall into place. And I thought, this is amazing. But it turned out things are not that simple. It's a bit more complex than that. And then I was doing all my visualization exercises. I was doing my gratitude exercises, but I still wasn't at a place where I wanted to be. So I was still stuck in a job that I didn't like, not earning the potential that I thought that I could earn. So all in all, I did not really feel that things worked out for me that the way I had imagined. But I still believed in it, and I did not give up on the law of attraction. I thought, it's working for other people, so there must be a way for me to work. And I researched a lot, and one day I came across an energy healer, and she taught me about energies, and how like energies attract like energies, and how we have these blocks seated in our energy field that literally keep away what we want to manifest. And these blocks come from the beliefs that we have, and that's why I call them manifestation blocks, because the manifestation blocks get translated into our energy field. And if we have blocks seated in our body, around our body, then we cannot really manifest what we desire. So that was a turning point for me after I found out about this work. Things really started to fall into place. Not to say that I never have problems. Of course, we are human beings, and we are here to learn and grow. And it's all part of the journey. And I think it's very important to accept that part. But still, I was able to create an abundant life for myself, for my family, my friends, my clients. So it's just a beautiful teaching that I like to share with others.
I think I saw that you've worked with 3,000 clients.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Germany must be in better shape now, because
in episode number 23, we featured Austin, Texas's Kerri Hummingbird, who takes us on an astounding tour of the shamanistic world in which she dwells and teaches in. She channels the spirit and words of the great Cherokee Indian chief White Eagle, who shares his wisdom from beyond this world through Kerri.
Awesome. Well, so White Eagle wants me to talk about the plants. So the plant medicines are really important.
Yes.
Yeah. So the jungle is our nature's medicine cabinet. Okay. So the fact that the jungle, parts of it are burning, is really disturbing, because it's our medicine cabinet. So there's lots of teachers in the jungle, medicines in the jungle that come here from other planets. They're plants, but they have wisdom from other places in the galaxy, right? I mean, if you're going to have a school, you want to have teachers from around, right, to teach your students. So this is a school. So there's plants from all around the galaxy that come in that are here now to teach. But you're not going to learn anything from them if your mind's all full of deadlines and nonsense and thinking and all this kind of stuff. You're not going to learn anything from the plants until you quiet your ass down and lay down and be quiet and listen to them. And, at first, you probably need to ingest the medicines in order for them to have an effect, because just how much crust is around your consciousness, like it's just really dense.
Mhm.
So, people without that are beginning their journey of this awakening process, there's just a lot of crust around their consciousness. So, it's sort of like you need a little chisel, to get through it. So the plant creates a crack in that and can insert itself now. And when you ingest it, it can get into your matrix from the inside, and now it can start to inform you. And once you've ingested a plant, it's always with you. So once you've ingested ayahuasca, the teacher is with you all the time now. Once you've ingested any plant, the teacher is with you all the time. It can teach you all the time. So now you can work with the spirit of the plant. It's not necessary to take a bunch of medicine all the time, although it helps sometimes for people when they're really clearing a lot of stuff out of their consciousness, that clutter, that crust. The plant can really help, but you can learn to work with the plants, the spirit of the plant, without ever imbibing it too. But you have to be clear enough. The consciousness can't be too crusty. If it's real crusty, got a lot of stories and stuff built up in there that needs to be cleared out, you can't hear the plant because you're too full of your own stuff. So you got to get all that stuff out of there in order to really hear the plant.
In the 28th show, we tapped into the deep wisdom and experience of Master Certified Law of Attraction life coach and best-selling author Charlotte Friborg. Using the key principles of the Law of Attraction, she helps empower women to successfully earn their own money and utilize their full powers as a woman to live a great, satisfying, and fulfilling life.
Women have been so suppressed and oppressed over the entire history of mankind. I love to see that women are now having an opportunity to blossom and grow as individuals rather than being dominated and being treated as property. And has that been kind of an enlightening area for you?
Yeah, thank you so much for acknowledging that, Carl, because I really think for many women, we need to hear that, because often I think we as women feel very alone until we find our community with like-minded people where we can find the support that we all need. No matter what level we're at, we need to be in communities where we can have support and keep being reminded of how unique we really are. And I think it's needed. And I have chosen to support women now in this time of my life, not because I don't want to support men at all. I do believe that both men and women need support, but I feel I have a lot of life experience that I want to share and be open about, because I hope that it can help other women out there to know that we don't have to be stuck, and we don't have to suppress ourselves or to feel not enough. And there are tools. There's an awakening happening, and I just want to have conversations about that to help more women understand that no matter where we are in life, there's always hope. There's always, and especially when we learn the things that you and I have learned through the QSCA, the structure we learned it in there, and the quantum physics, I mean, what you talk about in this show, when we start to integrate that into our life, it really can make a profound difference. So we don't have to feel like running in a hamster wheel or being stressed, or start to detach from what's happening in our world and take our power back and have these tools to shift. And when we do that inner work, it will shift the outer world. That's the quantum physics that you were talking about. I know a lot in this show here.
With the world's population struggling mightily with fear for their health and well-being, episode number 31 featured Adrianne Kop, a highly respected nutrition and health coach. She is also an expert teacher in the stress and health issue relating technique called tapping, also known as E.F.T. or emotional freedom technique. Would you be willing to lead us right now through maybe a general EFT session that people could use at home, that I could use myself? It doesn't have to be anything complicated. Maybe something rudimentary that we could do.
Yeah. Well, let's do something about overwhelm, because I think a lot of people are overwhelmed by fear and whatever is happening in their lives at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do on that. Normally, I would ask the person to evaluate the overwhelm of between 1 and 10. 10 being they are very overwhelmed, 1 they're not so overwhelmed. I would also ask them where they feel it in their body.
Well, can I answer that?
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just use me as an example. Overwhelm, just generally right now in the world, I feel between a 7 and an 8.
Between a 7 and an 8. Okay.
With 10 being the worst.
The highest.
Yeah.
And where do you feel it in your body?
2 places. I feel it in my head and my heart.
Okay. Yeah. Has anything happened in your life recently that would affect your heart, that you say you're feeling it in your heart? Emotion-wise, heart, health-wise?
No, nothing really.
No.
Really, it's more a reflection of the global situation. Yeah, personally, really nothing for them. No.
Nothing. Okay. So with the tapping points are, we say the karate chop point is where we start, which is over there. Or you can tap with your 2 wrists together, because there are lots of meridian points in there. Then we're going to go to the top of the eyebrow. Then on the other side of your eye, just up here, just under the eye. I'll tell you the points again. Under the nose, on the chin, and then tap broadly with your hand on your chest.
Okay.
And then under your arms, basically where ladies' bra straps would be. And then on top of your head, as if you've got a tennis ball on top of your head, and you're going to tap on the top of your head over there.
Okay, we do fingertips.
With your fingertips. And only use your fingertips, and don't tap so hard that you hurt and bruise yourself. It's just like, yeah.
Sometimes I'm tempted, yes.
It's just a light little tap. It doesn't have to
I just
be heavy.
watch the nightly news. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah. And I need this, I need this color. And often if you feel overwhelmed, you can just tap on your chest. You don't have to remember the points. EFT is very forgiving, because you don't have to remember the correct routine. You don't have to remember what to say. It's very forgiving. Say whatever comes up.
Okay.
To yourself. Okay. So we're going to start with a deep breath. In and out, and do another one. And then on the karate chop point, both hands. And you can use one hand or both. I like using both sides.
Okay.
Even although I feel this overwhelm, and repeat after me, sorry. Even although I repeat whatever I say. Even although I feel this overwhelm.
Even though I feel this overwhelm.
I want to love and respect myself as I am.
I want to love and respect myself as I am.
Even although this overwhelm is overtaking my body.
Even though this overwhelm is overtaking my body.
I choose to honor myself.
I choose to honor myself.
At this time.
At this time.
Even although this overwhelm is so extensive.
Even though this overwhelm is so
extensive, so much.
Extensive, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to love.
I choose to love.
Honor and respect myself.
Honor and respect myself.
On the top of the eye. This overwhelm.
This overwhelm.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
I want to release it.
I want to release it.
sorry, under the nose. I want to let this go.
I want to let this go.
On the chin, it's not serving any purpose.
It's not serving any purpose.
This overwhelm.
This overwhelm.
I'm letting it go.
I'm letting it go.
On top of the head, I'm choosing to let it go.
I'm choosing to let it go.
It's not, on the eye, it's not serving any purpose.
It's not serving any purpose.
On the side of the eye, in fact, it's stressing me out.
In fact, stressing me out.
Under the eye, letting it go.
Letting it go.
Under the nose, letting peace into my life.
Letting peace into my life.
Letting love into my life.
Letting love into my life.
On the chest, I feel at peace now.
I feel at peace now.
And the arms, it doesn't serve me to be any other way.
It doesn't serve me to be any other way.
On top of the head, I need to let happiness into my life.
I need to let happiness into my life.
On the side of the eyes, I need to let belief into my life.
I need to let belief into my life.
On the side of the eye, I need to believe that we are heading for a better place in this world.
I need to believe that we are heading for a better place in this world.
I believe that the human nature is good.
I believe that human nature is good.
I believe in myself.
I believe in myself.
Under the chin, on the chin. I need to believe that.
I need to believe that.
On the chin, on the chest, sorry, to move on with my life.
To move on with my life.
I am under the arms, I am moving on with my life.
I am moving on with my life.
And then I like ending with this little thing. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
On the side of the eye, please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
On the side of the eye, thank you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.
On another nose, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
On the chest, thank you.
Thank you.
Under the arms, I love you.
I love you.
Take a deep breath. And shake your hands.
I'm cured. Actually, I feel lighter. I do. I really feel lighter.
Fantastic.
And I love how you finish with some ho'oponopono.
Exactly. And you should twist it the other way around. It should first be, I love you. I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you. But it doesn't matter in what sequence you say that either. And when you're saying that, remember, you are loving yourself. You are forgiving yourself. You are sorry to yourself. It's not to anybody else. It's for yourself.
Episode number 32 featured our first ever dream tracker, Bambi Corso. She teaches us how keeping a journal on your dreams and learning to understand their meanings can help create the life you really want. Bambi believes that keeping a dream tracking journal can relieve the stress and chaos in your life.
I have written down over 8,000 dreams. It's really hard to keep track of that many of them, but I will say that they're all part of this journey. And yes, of course, I've had a lot of what we call big dreams. I would say, I've had, well, for example, too, I'm going to sidebar here just a little bit. I want to comment about dreams and paying attention when they're important as they relate to waking life. And yes. This particular dream came it's been about 10 years ago. The way that dreams have the ability to inform you about your health and your body, because generally we look at them as symbolic, but there are times when they are sharing something that's important for you to understand about your body. So I had a dream that I was in a hallway talking to my doctor, and he said to me, well, you have breast cancer, or you're going to get breast cancer. And that was pretty much the whole dream. It was very short. It was very to the point. And I wrote it down. I thought, okay, well, that's, it's disturbing because it was so direct. And I had a sense, and it's also probably a belief system that I have, that a lot of times that the cancer is a manifestation of us being unable to express something or share something or holding something inside, that kind of thing. And so, one of my own personal life challenges has always been really learning how to express myself. And I knew intuitively after having the dream that something had to shift. I needed to do something. I needed to learn how to use my voice more. And so about 7 years later, I ended up being diagnosed with breast cancer. So it wasn't a huge shock because I did on some level have some sense that something was going on or something was in the process of going on. But I also, became extra mindful to pay attention to that over the next many years. So, we can be informed by dreams that way. That was, of course, a huge life changer. Another example was a dream. So at the very beginning of my dream career, when I was first working with Stephen Eisenstadt, I knew I wanted to do dream work. I had been doing it for years before, but I hadn't been certified or anything like that. And I had a dream that, and this was like the late 90s, I guess. I had a dream that I'm in a huge auditorium and I'm with Dr. Eisenstadt, and the stands are filled with people, and he is going to introduce this couple, but instead he hands me the microphone and he says, "Will you do it?" And I go into this, this utter shock. Oh my God, what do you mean? I don't know what to say. How am I going to do this? I don't even know them. So in the dream, I won't go into too much detail, but in the dream, there was the name Bob and Hope. That was the couple, and they were the Link family. And so, I fumbled my way through it, but I woke up and I was so bothered by the fact that I did not know what to say that I signed up for Toastmasters within the week.
Yeah.
And I spent 2 years learning public speaking because I realized, if I can't speak publicly, how am I ever going to be able to share dream work? And so that was a huge shift for me, Carl. I mean, my life definitely changed after doing that, and kind of what I call that honoring the dream, where you take an action on behalf of the dream that does something to change in your waking life, that is helpful. So that, it was interesting because when I went to the first Toastmasters meeting, the name of the group was Rhetorical Link, which I thought was interesting because that was the name of the family. And the guy who was teaching that night started off with a quote from Bob Hope. So it was very synchronistic, but it was just enough for me to say, you know what, you are in exactly the right place at exactly the right time.
One of the world's most well-known and successful practitioners of the law of attraction, Natalie Ledwell, joined us for episode number 33. Natalie is co-founder of Mind Movies, which teaches how to create a vision board using video and how to practically and successfully incorporate the law of attraction into your life.
It's been quite a journey for you from where you started as an entrepreneur to the success you found in your life. And the law of attraction was key, right?
Well, it was. Once we started applying the law of attraction, the success that we had was like a quantum leap. Before, so this is 2006. I remember having a moment, where I'm looking at my bills, looking at my bank account, and at the time, my husband and I at the time had 4 businesses that we were running at the same time.
Wow.
So action was never a problem of ours. And I started being a student of personal development from the age of 21. One of my bosses gave me a set of cassettes by Brian Tracy.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, just opened up this whole world. So, we knew how to set goals and to, do your vision boards and all those kind of things. And yet we were still struggling. I'm like, I don't get it. I'm missing some vital piece of information. And then a friend suggested that we order a DVD online called The Secret. So this is when it originally came out. And I think the 2 biggest things that dropped in for Glenn and I at the time was not only when you're visualizing, you have to see where you want to end up, but you have to feel what it's like to already be there. You have to attach emotion to that visualization. which we never sort of understood before. But the big thing for me was like, oh, so I don't need to know how it's going to happen. I don't need to have every single, step planned out. Because if I couldn't see how it was going to happen, I would never set the goal. If I can't see this, it's, not going to happen. So all I needed to know was that I just need faith, visualize, take action, move forward, feel those emotions, and then things will start to fall into place. So, it wasn't long after that a friend showed us the little movie that he'd created, which was like PowerPoint slides and photos and music, and then suggested that we, go into business together and set up a little website, of which, Glenn and I knew nothing about, but we knew that it was a great idea. Mm-hmm. And from that, everything started to fall into place. And so even though we were teaching law of attraction and teaching visualization, we were also like the poster child, for everything that we were teaching as well.
And that's it. Best of World Awakenings Part 1. I really hope you enjoyed these master teachers that I've brought to you over the years. Thank you for joining us here. I'm your show host and creator of this show, Carl Gruber.
This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.